Hey guys, today I'm comparing the new Anastasia Beverly Hills Magic Touch Concealer against one of my holy grail Pat McGrath concealers. I've had Pat McGrath, I think since last year. I've been using it consistently. I really love this formulation. It's super full coverage, probably the fullest coverage that I currently have in my concealer collection. So today we're going to do a bit of a battle to see which one is better. So just a quick one, for Pat McGrath I've got the shade LM13, and for the new ABH concealer I picked up shade 10. Now shade 10 works really well for me. I do think that if I had gone up a shade, maybe shade 11, perhaps that would have been better. But I'll show you today what shade 10 looks like anyway. So have a look at these swatches. They'll give you an idea of how these shades compare. And then let's jump into the application now. So I have color corrected under my eyes. I've also hydrated my under eye area because this ABH concealer looks amazing when you have a really nice hydrated skin underneath. So I'm going to start with ABH shade 10 and I'm going to pop that on this side. So I'm going to start off with about this much, and then I can add more if needed. And I'll take my beauty blender and just blend this through. Now I'm just going to take my concealer brush and just make sure I get in the edges around the eyeshadow. It's about that. Go back with my beauty blender and just blend this in. This is ABH. As you can see, it has really good coverage. I think I'm going to leave that because that looks really good. I don't need to apply any more product. And now I'm going to go ahead and apply my Pat McGrath in LM13. So I'm going to apply a similar amount of Pat. I'm going to take that concealer brush and going to take that around the edge. Now I feel like I need more product with Pat McGrath to get a similar type of coverage. So I'm going to add a little bit more, just going to blend this out. So here we have ABH. And then Pat. Both look really good. Now I'm going to set this with Pat McGrath powder. This is the loose powder in the shade Light Medium 2. And I'll start on the ABH side first. And just very gently patting this in. That is looking really good. I like it. And the Pat side looks amazing as well. ABH with the powder. And then Pat McGrath. Both look really great under the eyes. Now, just in terms of how you think the two look, in terms of shade, in terms of application, leave your comments below. What do you think? Do you have a preference between these two? Hey guys, so now you've seen how the two concealers look like under my eye. Both these shades I really enjoyed and they both work really well for me. Now both of these colors are sort of like a brightening concealer for me. So as you can see under my eye, it does give me that brightened look. I wouldn't really call them everyday concealers. So for everyday, for me, it's the LM14 for Pat McGrath, and for everyday, probably for ABH is going to be shade 11. I haven't seen shade 11 in person, so I can't tell you what that looks like, but I'm very, very curious to see what shade 11 looks like. Now, in terms of undertone, these two shades also differ quite a bit. The Pat McGrath shade definitely leans a little bit more yellow, whereas the ABH leans a little bit more amber, a little bit more of a pinky to peach undertone. Pink, I would say pink. I think the ABH leans a little bit more pink, which is quite interesting because on ABH website it says that shade 10 has golden undertone. Now I've seen lots of different types of undertone for the shade golden. Different brands will label golden as different things. What I can tell you is that when you see these products on me, I have very warm undertones. I am yellow and olive undertone, but I definitely warm side. So for example, if you have a neutral undertone, then I think the ABH shade 10 would work really well for you because it's not too yellow or too golden. So how do I find these formulas? First of all, I have done a whole video on the Pat McGrath concealer, so if you wanted to see it in detail, go check that out. But in a nutshell, I love Pat McGrath. I love this concealer. It has full coverage. I have so many concealers that say they are full coverage, but they really aren't. This is definitely full coverage. It's a little bit on the thicker side. It's quite creamy. It blends like a dream. It's a beautiful concealer. Now it does crease on me, so this is not one of those concealers that won't crease. It definitely will crease by the end of the day. I'm okay with that because I do enjoy the finish. I enjoy the shade. I enjoy how easily I can apply this under my eye. It's creamy, slightly emollient, and full coverage, which my under eyes definitely need. Now, in terms of ABH, the first time I tried ABH, I thought about Pat McGrath straight away because of the full coverage. It really has a lot of coverage, like you saw in the application. And so I've really been enjoying the ABH concealer as well. Very similar in terms of Pat McGrath. The only difference between these two is really the texture. The ABH is quite light. So Pat McGrath in comparison, for example, has slightly thicker texture, whereas the ABH has quite a thin texture, and so it does feel a little bit more lightweight than the Pat McGrath, but it also has a ton of coverage, so I've really been enjoying it for that. One of the key tips that I mentioned in the application was that do try this concealer under a very hydrating base. So apply a nice, rich, hydrating under eye cream or even just your normal moisturizer, and then pop this on and it looks beautiful. And I think that's because it's so thin that that dewiness from your moisturizer underneath kind of shows through and it looks beautiful. Now this concealer also creases on me, so it's not crease proof. Either of these two, they're not crease proofs. It does creases on me, but it's not too bad. And I'll be doing a wear test today, so you'll be able to see after 8 hours what these two look like. Maybe we'll see who wins. It's a tough one because they're both really great. Anyway, let's address the elephant in the room, which is this beautiful, mesmerizing blue eyeshadow. If you have been hypnotized by this shade during this video, I don't blame you because I have been hypnotized just seeing myself on camera, because this shade is the most beautiful blue I have come across in an eyeshadow ever. Seriously, ever. So let me tell you what I've got on. So this is a brand called What's Up Beauty. So I believe they're an indie brand from the US. They reached out to me because they wanted to send me a couple of their products, and there's no obligation for me to even mention them or review or anything like that. They just wanted to send to me to try out. And wow, but this is the blue right here that I have all over my eye, and it's beautiful. It is so beautiful. I mean, look at that. Wow, I'm so obsessed. So I just wanted to give this a shout out because my favorite blue eyeshadow ever. So guys, let's jump into the wear test now, and you'll be able to see how these two compare side by side after a full 8 hours. Hey guys, so it's been exactly 8 hours and let's have a look at the concealers now. So on this side, I have ABH. And then on this side, I'm wearing Pat. Now I'm just going to dim the lighting so we can take a look under low light as well. ABH. And Pat. So overall, after an 8-hour day where I applied a really decent amount of product under my eyes, both look pretty much the same to me. They both have creased just a little bit, so not a lot, just a little bit. They've creased. So Pat McGrath has creased right here, and same with ABH, it's creased right here. I haven't had any creasing on the sides. What do you guys think? Do you like one over the other? Let me know in the comment section below. This is not the first time that I'm doing this comparison. I have been trying these two out, and every single time I try them, they pretty much look the same. There isn't really a huge difference between the two. Today, for example, I'm seeing a little bit more creasing on the ABH side than on the Pat McGrath. However, the last few times I've tried both of these side by side, they have looked and creased exactly the same on me. So I think the difference is really minimal. Both are really good concealers, full coverage. I have definitely enjoyed both. I will say though, in terms of price and how much product you get, definitely ABH wins. You get more product with less money than with Pat McGrath. So that's something to consider. I'm happy with this concealer. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. See ya.